Welcome to VCR, Vintage Cinema Rewind, bringing old movies to new viewers. And I don't know why I was about to just dive into things. I'm Blake.
Yeah, I'm Jason, and again, we're still invalid.
Yeah, still invalid. Like I've felt my entire life. And this is part 2 of our Gattaca discussion.
Gattaca.
Gattaca.
Gattaca!
Gattaca! We're, like I said on the previous episode, we're kind of switching things up a little bit with the format. So this is the spoiler-full, behind-the-scenes discussion, talking about all of our thoughts and feelings about this movie. If you kind of want more of a primer to know whether this movie is for you or not, I would highly recommend going and checking the episode from last week out.
Yeah.
So, with that said, let's just dive into it and start in front of the camera, talk about our favorite moments, just about the movie in general.
Yeah, I have a question for you. When did you first realize that, I don't know, the question doesn't make full sense. Gattaca, like G-A-T-A, like the spelling of it, when did you first realize that those were like the DNA proteins, the 4 proteins? Because I realized that like fairly quick. I was like, oh, I get it now, where the name Gattaca came from.
I had kind of read about it before, so I can't say that I like discovered it myself.
Yeah, because like on one of the computer screens, it had like his name, and then like blue text was going across, and I was like, oh, that's like a gene sequence. So it's just like the 4 letters that like Gattaca could be a part of anyone's DNA.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool opener to the film, eh?
Yeah, I like that.
Like the fact that it's in the end, like it's just actually like a really zoomed in like appearance of him kind of prepping for the day and becoming Jerome Morrow.
Yeah, and like I was trying to figure out like why is he scrubbing himself so much and stuff. Yeah. And then like it gets.
And you kind of realize it over time as well, right? You're like, God damn, like he does this every single day. Like his entire house is designed to prepare to become Jerome Morrow.
Yeah, which is like that transformation is huge in the movie. Like it shouldn't be possible. Yeah. Especially because of the way society views invalids.
Right.
And do you remember some of the other names for invalids? There was borrowed ladders.
Yeah, borrowed ladders.
Oh, was it when you steal someone's identity, you're borrowing their ladder?
Yeah.
Which, again, is like the double helix ladder.
2 meanings, yeah. Climbing a like corporate
like the
ladder
DNA
almost
ladder
kind of thing.
Or corporate ladder,
Yeah. Do you want to talk about some of the name conventions now?
Yeah, sure, yeah. So yeah, I already went into Gattaca, where that name came from. And then Vincent Freeman, his original name, is obviously Freeman is pretty obvious. He's working to prove that like a free man can be just as good as these like genetically edited perfect people.
Right.
And then Vincent means he shall conquer, or like he's going to win, whatever. So I love when names like have to do with that. Right. And then Jerome Morrow. So Jerome sounds like genome. Basically.
Yeah.
So like that's where that's kind of connected, and I'm not sure where else. But then Morrow, it's like for tomorrow. Like the whole point is like they're trying to work for tomorrow. So and like he only lives his life like for tomorrow. Basically, he doesn't want anything but to get drunk like tonight and maybe tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Something like that. Wasn't the best description there. The other ones were like just kind of small. Like Joseph was the who was he?
Oh, that's the director.
Oh yeah, the director who's like running everything.
Yeah.
Is spelled the same way as Joseph Mendel. Yeah. From World War II, who was like the Nazi medical experiment guy.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah, but it also, Okay, and then Eugene, obviously. So that's what Jerome, the like Jude Law's character, he like changes his name to that. It's his middle name, so that they could differentiate each other a little bit better. Yeah. And that's just from eugenics, the program to improve humans by selective breeding. Yeah. Which is very like rooted in racism and things like that. And that's basically what's happening. It's like such hardcore classism though.
Yeah, and the movie kind of Like you could almost frame it like a classism kind of movie too, right? Like if you insert that over the sci-fi element to it, you'd have basically the exact same movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like that is kind of what he's fighting, like classism is. We should have mentioned that in the themes.
Probably, yeah. Oh well. I have one question for you that I was thinking about from the question that you asked me before. When did you realize that the detective was Vincent's brother?
A little late. I wrote it down actually, like as things were building with the detective. I was like, it can't be, and like it wasn't super obvious just by how he looked or anything, because it is like a few years later.
Right.
We only saw
and
his brother
they did a good job of like slightly altering everybody's appearances, right?
Yeah. That's another theme, like brotherhood.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's brotherhood between the brothers and like how they fight in between each other and like the competitive nature of brothers and humanity, sort of. And then there's also like the good version of brotherhood where Jerome and Vincent actually like basically become brothers.
Right.
And the same person.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Jess actually figured it out before I did, and probably like 2 or 3 scenes after the detective's been introduced, I would say. Like she found it, figured it out pretty quick.
Yeah, like it was. I guessed it before he was like.
Because before it became real obvious.
It was when they were in the club and the detective showed up and the like police guy. They show up and break up the party after, and Irene, they're running away, and the detective, his brother's like, Vincent!
Right.
That's when I got it.
Talking about early on in the movie, a quote that I picked out just because of its kind of relevance to current movies. There's a point where Irene walks up to Vincent while Vincent's watching the flights or the spaceships leaving, and she goes, "How many launches are there each day, Vincent? A dozen?" And he goes, "Sometimes more." And she says, "You're the only one who watches all of them. If you're going to pretend like you don't care, don't look up." And I was like, "Damn, don't look up." Nice. It was cool, and I try to look and see if there's any like connection to the movies. Not really. I wonder if Adam McKay is a big fan of this one or not.
Probably.
But, it was just cool to hear that line in this movie because it kind of fits like a similar kind of vibe of what the don't look up means in the other film. Yeah. My favorite aspect of this movie is that I want to talk about was the relationship between Vincent and Jerome's, because they really do become brothers, like you said, and the fact that they share identities. I really appreciated that part of the movie.
Yeah, like going from the beginning where they're just like throwing snipes back at each other kind of, and like they're not trusting each other yet either, because this is such a big undertaking in this world to become another person and pass it off as being the elite in like Gattaca itself is elite within the society. Right. And so passing that off and doing everything it takes. And so Vincent's character being like too short
and him having to break his legs. As soon as they started talking about like height, I was like, damn, they're going to break his legs.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. And like, yeah, because he's like, I could just wear lifts, and he's like, that won't be enough. And he has to go through such a radical transformation that is also mirroring the accident that happened to
that's a good point.
Jerome.
Yeah,
because
and what I really like about this, kind of going off of this note, is the level of passion that Vincent has throughout the movie. Like it's unwavering passion, and he's kind of like lifts everybody else up with his passion. And that's partially also just like a credit to Ethan Hawke as well for just the way he portrays the character. Like I think like this is borderline an Oscar worthy performance in my opinion.
Yeah. Like that's where I could see the connection to those other movies that you say are very similar. Because his character is just so passionate, and like he just pushes those boundaries.
Yeah, and like when we meet Jerome originally, he is like he's ready for death essentially, right? Like
he already tried to commit suicide.
Yeah, exactly.
And then now he failed at that too, which hurt him so much more.
Right. And so the fact that by the end he literally thanks Vincent for letting him he's like, I shared my identity and you shared your dream.
Yeah, and he's like, I got the better end of the deal out of this because of what you did for me.
There's so many great quotes in this movie. Like, this movie is borderline poetic in some of the dialogue.
Yeah, and I'm gonna ruin that with my favorite quote, which is just, it's not like the full quote, but is when Ethan Hawke's character has to pee into a cup at the very beginning, and Lamar, the doctor, is like, "You've got an exceptional tool."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I don't know why my folks didn't pick one like that for me," and that is what I think like had so much. It's funny because like they could have picked any dick size for him. But like for any of the regular people, but because he was born naturally, he just has a big dong. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. I really like, though, on that note as well, how they actually kind of hinted at the doctor's son being like less than perfect as well at that point. And that's part of like again, there's so many gut punch moments in this movie, and that moment at the end where that him and the doctor share together, and he finally explains to him, like, you know, like my son is like you, and you give me hope that my son can rise above what he's expected of him. Yeah,
it's very like he's not saying it outright. Yeah, but yeah, the implication is there. So that's where my I have a theory that he actually used. Like, I thought Lamar, the doctor, stole his DNA because he actually respected, like, the real Vincent so much that he created a son out of him. Oh. So, like, that's my crazy, like,
that's
theory.
Wild. That's a theory and a half.
Yeah, like, why else would he say, like, my son is a fan of yours, other than the fact that he's just has a natural born son and he's trying to pass it off?
No, his son was actually born with eugenics, but, like, for whatever reason, it didn't quite work, and so he had some defects. Yeah. Huh. He explains it at one point. He explains it at the end, I believe.
No, he doesn't say much.
Yeah, he says enough, though, to imply that. And so that's kind of what you gather at the end, is because he's known the whole time, because he's been kind of propping his son up and giving his son hope through, like, the life of...
Yeah, like, he sees like, so much respectable stuff coming from this version of Jerome that he's like, my son can do that too then. Yeah. Because... you also see that with how he interacts with Irene, and is like, you can push through this heart defect. You're letting it get to your head because you've been told that is such an important flaw of yours.
Yeah, like it's a movie it's because of Vincent's unwavering hope and dreams, and the fact that he raises everyone up. Like, it's a movie that if I was in maybe a dark place myself, like, I would really feel good coming out of this one. Like, like, it's just that unwavering passion that just, it's really beautiful to see. And it's really beautiful seeing all those, like, person to person moments together. Cause
those interactions make like everything, like, that's what saves him.
Yeah.
Is those interactions, really.
Exactly. And that's what I love about actually the final quote of the film. For someone who was never meant for this world, I must confess, I'm suddenly having a hard time leaving it. Of course, they say every atom in our bodies was once part of a star. Maybe I'm not leaving. Maybe I'm going home. Like, for me, that quote really hit me hard, actually, for some reason. And I think part of it, I was just thinking about this before we started recording, is... personally, like, I'm fascinated by space. Like, I love every aspect of space. I love the idea of that great beyond out there. I've watched all of Cosmos. I've watched, like, I've taken courses in university on space. Like, I really, really love it. And I know that I'm never going to go to space. Yeah. And so there's something about that quote that I find really comforting.
Yeah. Like, I don't know who originated the concept that we are stardust or whatever. Like, we are made... like, the same matter that comes from us is in the stars, and vice versa. But, like, that made me think of Carl Sagan and like the original Carl Sagan.
Oh, Cosmos.
Yeah.
I gotta ask you, though, because the movie, it ends on that high note, but at the same time, there's a bit of a bittersweetness to it, right? Because Jerome does kill himself at the end, and I was pretty gutted about that. Like, what do you think the meaning is behind it? Like, it feels like this movie just has so much meaning and there's so much purpose and everything in it. Like, did you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, like it kind of sucked. Like the initial thing is like oh, why is, like I thought he like had a reason to live now and everything, and like he got through that dark period. But I think it's more of like the same concept of like that last quote where it's like before he accepted death, but for shitty reasons, and now he's embracing death on his own terms, like with like full satisfaction of his life and like an understanding of the society and world he lives in and everything. Like he became a complete person, and he's like, well, I'm done.
Yeah, like maybe he went out with some dignity. Like
yeah, like so much dignity. I think like he made some real human to human connections that he probably never would have as a like peak human in this society.
Yeah,
like it would be pure competition and like drive to succeed. Like that's everybody's pre-programmed to just go for that. You don't see too many like real genuine connections besides that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like I really struggled with it because I was pretty upset about it, and I couldn't see why he had to die, but I think you're right. I like that idea.
Yeah, like I think it's pretty accurate.
What I want to say is the aesthetic of the film is really cool, and part of what's so great about it is all the awesome cars.
Oh yeah.
Like this is borderline like a classic car movie. There's some real cool stuff there. I don't know if you have any of them written down.
I do have like two pulled up. Vincent, his car is a 1963 Studebaker Avanti, which is just like a crazy awesome luxury I think German car. And the rest of the cars that like the majority that you really see are the cop cars, and so they're actually kind of they were really popular with the police force in Britain. They're high-speed interceptors. They're Rover P6s, or sometimes called the Rover 2000. So from like 1963 to 1976. So it's just like a classic British like. Yeah, they picked like the coolest cars from the past and just kept that as the standard. I love that because and that kind of makes you think too, like when did they come up with this genetic editing? Like those ideas were around back then. So like they might have just started this gene editing and nothing else in society really progressed because they lost like a human element or something.
Yeah, and that's maybe also like almost like a Cold War-esque era to it. Like we never advanced because we were so focused on beating the other guy at the war aspect. Like again, it's similar to the Fallout series in that like the culture never really altered much from that 60s era, that 50s, 60s era.
Yeah.
The other
I have two other cars.
Yeah. I was going to mention them, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you can.
The Rover P6 and the Citroen DS9?
The Citroen DS Cabriolet, yeah.
Yeah.
That's Uma Thurman's character, Irene. Citroen made some like great cars back then. So that's pretty cool that they got that in there. And there was also a 1956 Ford Continental Mark II coupe, which is super expensive even when it was first created. So the fact they got one for the movie is pretty awesome.
My dad had a Lincoln Continental for a few years.
Oh, yeah?
From my great uncle, and it was a boat. Like it was huge.
Yeah, huge.
Like a presidential boat or presidential car. Let's move into effects and filming.
What do you want to start with? I was going to start with the lighting.
Yeah, let's go on the lighting. That's a great starting point.
Because that brings in some other like character to the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so they used yellow, green, and blue lighting for different sections and like different feelings within the movie.
Did it remind you of another sci-fi movie? Because there's one that I was instantly thought about when I was looking at the different color hues.
It did, but no. Cube.
Oh, okay.
For one.
For me, it was The Matrix.
The Matrix,
yeah. Those greens of the Matrix and then kind of the blues when we're out.
Yeah. Yeah, both of those, which are almost around the same time anyways,
Yeah.
but like similar concepts. So yeah, the use of lighting is so important, especially in a piece like this.
And the fact that it was shot on Super 35 millimeter is really cool.
Yeah, that's probably what makes it feel so, like, makes it feel old school, but also like timeless.
Yeah. It's a really cool old Hollywood technique that not a lot of directors use anymore. It's like that, like everybody's gone digital, other than like a few of the kind of top
High-level
contemporary,
artistic,
like Quentin Tarantino. I think Christopher Nolan doesn't use digital either. But yeah, I noticed it too and really appreciated that.
And did you see where, like, which scenes are using which colors?
No, go ahead.
It starts out when he's young, like any scenes where he's young, it's yellow. And then I forget the other two.
Well, the green is like when they're at school, right? Is kind of where I noticed it. Or I really thought it was distinct, the green, when him and Irene park the car and go to see the solar panels.
Oh yeah.
There was a really green aspect to that. The blue,
I think the green is also whenever him and his brother are doing the chicken game swimming.
Yep.
The blue is anytime he's like pretending to be a superhuman because he's not being like real. He's being a facade. And then anytime where he's having real interactions where like he's supposed to be Jerome, but some of his own character comes through, or when it's green. So like that's why when him and Irene go like share a moment and see the solar panels, that's why it's green there, because it's a blending of the two.
Yeah, I
So,
like that idea, the
because
blending of the two. I was just thinking
yellow
that.
plus blue equals green.
Yeah.
That's so and
I know my basic colors.
yeah, there we go. And also just that scene was great for like, that was where the intensity of everything that he's trying to hide, and like that's where I felt it the most, was when he was having to dart across the highway with his contact lenses out.
Right.
I was like, I figured she would find out eventually anyways, but I didn't know which way the rest of the movie was going to go, because she could have turned on him or something.
Yeah.
But
well, and she could have even been the murderer. At one point, I was suspecting her as the murderer.
Yeah. So him darting across the highway without his contact lenses in, we see now how, like, that's an important scene, because we see how deteriorated he is compared to these peak humans.
Right.
And we didn't know how bad he was, because we knew he had like some kind of heart issue, or a potential for a heart issue. We don't know if he actually has any like life-threatening heart issues.
Right.
By the end, we don't know. We're just assuming based on the statistics that are
he was
shown in the movie.
He was predisposed to have some sort of heart condition. It doesn't mean his heart was necessarily going to explode.
Yeah, he had like a % chance, and normally they would write that out of someone's genetic code. So,
right.
Yeah. So that's like where we see like how vulnerable he really is, and how awesome he's doing at hiding it. Second time we see that is when he's on the treadmill and he is acting as Jerome.
Yeah.
He is killing it at acting, because he had to run a full marathon in 20 minutes and not break a sweat. And he had to keep his heart rate perfect, which he did by just recording the real Jerome's heart rate. That's where he like rushes away after his heart starts going crazy. But like, that's any regular human who ran, like, he literally did run a 20-minute full marathon.
Yeah.
Nobody should be able to do that. Like, I don't know.
And that kind of goes back to a quote that I was going to mention earlier, and I forgot. That quote when him and his brother Anton get out into the water,
Yes.
and he says, "You want to know how I did it? This is how I did it, Anton. I never saved anything for the swim back."
Yes.
And that just goes again to like the amount of passion that Vincent has. Like, he saves nothing. He puts everything out there, like, all the time.
That's the only thing that he could, like, that's how he figured out that he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Is that realization with his brother, because his brother was just consistently beating him at everything.
Yeah, and that's kind of actually something that's like a contrast as well, is because Vincent's not perfect and he has all of this passion. He's almost more human than the superhumans who don't have the same level of passion.
They don't have the
like, none of
reason
them.
to have that drive.
Yeah.
like the struggle is what makes the like someone capable of greatness.
Yeah.
When everyone's great, no one is.
Nice.
The way he says that too, like that comes up multiple times where he didn't save anything or save anything for the return trip, because he is going on a 1 year or year and a half, whatever, 1 year trip to Saturn.
Yeah.
Which is like, we don't know if he's going to die on that trip or not.
Yeah. And he doesn't know.
Either.
Yeah.
But he had to do it.
Yeah.
The film uses 3 basic colors to denote what the author refers to as the character's identity. Yellow to illustrate Vincent's past, blue to depict his future, and green to bridge the two.
Ah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. The ID photo of Jerome. Did at any point you think, damn, like, they made Ethan Hawke and Jude Law actually look really similar?
Yeah, they did.
And the reason why you might think that is because the ID photo of Jerome, they actually digitally morphed the 2 actors together.
Oh,
so
no
that's
way.
why it looks so damn close to both of them.
Yeah.
Because if you put both of them side by side, I'm like, there's maybe a little bit of resemblance. But every time that picture came up, I was like, damn, they picked such good actors to play each other, kind of thing.
Yeah,
to see each other's identity.
Yeah, like thinking about it and like looking at them separately, they don't actually look that similar, but they did a lot to make them like similar enough.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie, and obviously in that.
And funny enough, this movie has a connection to another 90s film for that reason. The 1999 film, The Talented Mr. Ripley. So Matt Damon also uses Jude Law's ID successfully in the movie without getting caught. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. I've never seen that one, actually.
Me either. I've heard about it. It's on a list I have somewhere, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll do it on this podcast at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into score really quickly. I don't have too much to talk about with score. It's honestly like a really beautiful like background score that sets the tone of the film really well.
Yeah, I think it was like masterful without standing out too much.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where it lands. Like, it's not something that I'm going to listen to on like just out in general, like when I'm working or whatever, but it fit the film extraordinarily well, and it's to get the feeling that this movie is trying to pull from you. You have to give a lot of credit, I think, to the background score here. And it's tricky because it's really tricky to make this not feel ham-fisted, I guess, and trying to get this feeling of hope and the thriller aspect of it even, and even just like maybe the general sadness, like the low-key sadness that's hanging there. Like all of these different feelings are it really pops with that score.
Overall, like solid score.
Yeah. I don't have too much to add with that one. Let's talk legacy really quick. The time the movie came out, it was a bit of a box office bomb, even though it had like a lot of critical praise. It's a film that, you know, has always been very high critically.
Yeah.
It's just because it's kind of like an artsy movie, so it would have been hard to sell this one to people.
Yeah.
It's a movie that over time I think develops a pretty big cult following and has developed a cult following. It's also the movie where Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman met and started dating.
Yes. Yeah, I read that too.
So, you Stranger Things fans out there, we wouldn't have Maya Hawke if we didn't have Gattaca.
Exactly.
So you're welcome for Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. Just say that.
Maybe they also test tube babied her. Because they completely missed the message of the movie that they were in.
Two perfect humans making another perfect human.
Yeah.
This was actually voted by NASA scientists as the most accurate sci-fi ever made.
Really?
Which is really cool.
You know what? I could see that.
Because it's like...
One, they don't go too crazy with it.
Exactly.
That's where the near future idea is, and like it is completely within the realm of possibility for humans to just do this. And also with that, like with the genetic engineering and having like so many people that could be just born to be like physicists and like astronauts. He was a navigator. Like we could have the perfect amount of people to make it to like the stars easily. So yeah, I could see that. That's awesome.
Sequels, prequels, and reboots. So there's not really an actual sequel, prequel, or reboot to this, but like we talked about on the last episode, this is the same director who did In Time, and he said that essentially that's the bastard child of this movie. So you could probably watch, like, you've seen both. I haven't seen both. Would you watch Gattaca and then watch In Time, do you think?
Yeah. Either way would really be good because the feelings are a bit different and similar. Like where this one lacks action and like adventure a little bit,
Right.
and is more about the human experience. That one is they're like equal on the spectrum, like on equal sides, where it's like not too crazy.
Who did it better,
in time.
Ethan Hawke or Justin Timberlake?
Ethan Hawke.
The fact that you even gave that a second
No,
surprised
I
me.
didn't.
Our personal reviews and the partner factor. So Jess and I both really, really like this movie. My favorite aspects are the relationship between Jerome and Vincent, the style, the aesthetic of the film, just rocks. Love the tone of the movie, the cars, like just everything about that aspect of the film really killed it for me. I think it's objectively like just a really, really good movie, and it's probably going to connect with a lot of people. Like the themes of the movie are just pretty appealing, and I think it could be in conversation for one of the greatest sci-fis of all time. Like if you look at the greatest movie on IMDb, the top number one movie is Shawshank Redemption, and this has very similar feeling to that, like that feeling of hope and passion is there. And so I think it could be in that argument, just because even though it's a sci-fi movie, it's really about the human condition. It wouldn't make my top 20. And that's what I was going to ask you, is if this is a notable movie for you. So I'll leave it to you. Give me yours and your review.
So yeah, my review again, like I don't know how high up I would put it, but it's definitely on a list of like the top 50, maybe like 30 in sci-fi. I don't know if it reaches top 10. It's maybe top 20, but yeah, overall, like the realism and the like intensity of like exploring human nature,
Right.
definitely make it one of, like they make it high on the list.
I was kind of thinking about this before we did this episode. I was looking into sci-fi movies a little bit. I just wanted to watch the sci-fi maybe a month ago, and so I was looking at like greatest sci-fi films of all time lists, top 50s, and on I think every single list I'd seen like 19 of the 20 greatest sci-fis of all time, which I was kind of chuckling to myself, like, damn, like I've seen them all basically. Like,
Yeah.
I know the best stuff out there for
Yeah.
sci-fi. So
Yeah, and like since there's less of it, it's easier to watch like
Yeah.
more of the percentage or whatever, and because we are drawn to it a little bit more. I liked like the relationship between him and his brother. Like that's like without that, there would be like a missing element to why he was like how he became so driven. Like if it was just society, I think it would beat him down. But having that like direct, like growing up like day to day directly beside a superhuman would be just, it would either defeat you or give you so much, like a brother relationship or sibling overall where there's some competition.
Yeah.
I think that like added so much to his character.
Well, and it's not only that too, but it's how his parents even like respond to the two different brothers and how they're different. And
yeah, like it was like they almost regretted having him natural born, even though they were like so for it in the beginning.
that like kind of gut punch when you realize the meaning behind him changing Vincent's name at the last minute when he's born is like, oof. Like right off the bat, like he's somewhat writing off his son.
Yeah. And the fact that like nobody knows anything more about the well, I guess we find out like his parents died.
Yeah.
But besides that, like there was no other interaction that we saw between him and his parents. It was just him and his brother.
Right. Another movie I thought about, actually, it's more lighthearted than this, but it's kind of, again, it's a bit of a sci-fi. It's a little bit about unwavering passion, is the 2012 film Safety Not Guaranteed, which is on Prime. It stars Aubrey Plaza and Mark Duplass. And it's basically the premise of the movie is the joke advertisement that wanted someone to go back in time with. I've got a time machine. You just need to bring yourself. Safety. I've done this once before. Safety not guaranteed.
Right. Yeah.
It's a really, really fun film. Jess and I both really loved it. It's kind of a little bit like smaller budget like this. It's a little bit more artsy kind of movie, but Aubrey Plaza is one of our favorites. We just watched Emily the Criminal, which you and I were both talking about before this. So I'm always there for Aubrey Plaza. So if you're also there for her, Spectre, you could go check that one out on Prime. It's a pretty cool movie.
Oh, I wanted to go into like, I didn't find any, but the scenes for like the restaurant, like that restaurant they go to, and it's like basically in a cathedral where they see the 12-fingered pianist.
Oh yeah,
Like,
right.
that was a crazy scene. Like all the settings for this movie were perfect.
The 12-finger pianist. You know what I thought of as soon as I saw that?
What?
I saw Six-Fingered Man. I was like,
Princess Bride?
yeah, Princess Bride.
Yeah,
Instantly
yeah.
said that out loud. Yeah, I think that's it. So upcoming, we're doing my choice, which we're doing the movie Trainspotting. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and neither you nor Mike have seen it. So I'm really excited, honestly, just to kind of share one of my passions with you guys. It's like, honestly, like I said, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's got some really memorable scenes, some really great quotes, and
Great actors.
it's great actors, and it's just hilarious. And some really heartbreaking moments too.
Yeah,
So it's got everything.
yeah. Lots of heroin.
Yeah, lots of heroin and every other drug you can possibly imagine. It's probably the greatest anti-drug PSA movie
I've
ever
heard
made.
that, yeah, except for maybe Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, way more rewatchable than that though. But we'll discuss that on that episode.
Awesome.
Be excited for that, and also let us know what you thought about the new format.
Yeah, I hope it was easy to, like, if you are used to our regular standard podcast where you could just listen to all of it. I hope
Yep.
it's just easy to continue and then it sounds like the same, or if you want to stop, you just listen to the first bit.
Yeah, exactly. Or even, like this gives you a chance to watch the movie
Yeah.
before we dive
That's
into
what
the
I meant.
background.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
have a good one.
Yeah,
We'll see you
see
next
ya.
time.
All right.